Commence in about 5 minutes. I'm going to call to order the Assembly Committee of the Whole work session for October 4th. We're still in the Mona Lisa Drexler Assembly Chambers, and we all know how to get out of here. How to get out of here. Madam Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. I would like to note for the record that Mr. Tacky is excused tonight. Mr. Lejeski. Ms. Major. Here. Mr. Quist.
Here.
Mr. Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Gray.
Here.
Mr. Cooper.
Here.
Ms. Dodge. Here. Mr. Lawrence.
Here. And Mr. Lejeski is walking in.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
All right. Memorandum reports and presentations, we have none. Advance ordinances and resolutions, we've got 9. They're all going to be pretty similar. So we'll start with ordinance number 2018-31, an ordinance altering the boundaries of Tungsten Service Area to remove lots 1 through 5, Hidden Hill subdivision, altering the boundaries of Vienna Woods Service Area to include lots 1 through 5, Hidden Hill subdivision, and providing for one election. The sponsor is Mayor Castle. Mayor, may we have a staff report, please? There is additional information in your yellow folders.
Absolutely. We can do a staff report, and for the sake of efficiency, I will introduce just once this evening for the next 9 items in a row on our agenda, Mr. Michael Bradley from Rural Services.
Good evening. To my right is Rob Brazil. He's the service area tech, and he administers the boundary change program during the year, because it's about a year-long process. So before I get started with this specific ordinance, I just wanted to give you some general notes about these annexations and elections. So we have a total of 9 boundary changes this year, and we do have some different types of boundary changes that require various elections and some that don't require any elections at all. So we do have 6 annexations, so 6 different ordinances that were annexations by petitions. So that means that an individual or a group of people who live in an area, they wanted a municipality to take over road maintenance. And so in that case, they have a boundary that wants to be brought in, and there's a service area that they would be joining. So in that case, it's what I would call a 2-part election. So the group of people who want to be brought into a service area and have their roads maintained, they have to vote, and that has to be a majority vote passed, as well as the service area that they would be joining also votes. The residents within that service area also votes, and that would also have to be a passing vote. And if both pass, then that annexation would occur. We have one annexation that is kind of a combo, and it would be a removal which would take place via ordinance, as well as an annexation which would be a 1-part election. And the reason it would be a 1-part election is because this particular area, its only legal access is through a service area. So if its only legal access is through a service area, those parcels don't vote, only the receiving service area would vote. And then we have a couple of ordinances that are removals. And so with a removal, that is done by ordinance and not done by an election. And that is because those particular parcels don't rely on service area roads to gain access to their property.
All right. Mr. Bradley, that last type, the removal, is that generally something that is initiated by the property owner who's saying, hey, I'm not getting any benefit, why am I paying for the road service area? Or is it Rural Services who sees the problem and does it, or is it sometimes both?
That's a great question, and we actually this year we have examples of both. So we do it both ways. So we do have an ordinance that was initiated by a request from a property owner, and then we also we will get them, and in this case, it was due to a plat that changed the shape of a parcel, as well as, and once they changed that shape of the parcel, it removed them from the service area. So that was initiated by us through a plat.
All right, now I know we've brought up the first ordinance, but are there any general questions on the overall process of this that might be helpful? Any questions? All right, and I assume this first ordinance is that situation where it's a single election because the parcel that would be added has no other access other than the Vienna Woods road service area. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you. So this ordinance that's in front of you right now, this is kind of a two-part ordinance. The first would be removing a parcel from Tungsten, which is located off of Chena Hot Springs Road, Tungsten service area, and it's actually it's really to the east of Vienna Woods, and the parcel that we're talking about, or the parcels that we're talking about, they border those two service areas. So initially, this was one large parcel, and so that had technically legal access into Tungsten. Once it got subdivided and they divided it up into 5 separate parcels, its only legal access is now Vienna Wood, right here. So its only legal access is through a non-public road easement to this point here, which is the beginning of the service area road maintenance.
Oh, goodness.
The parcel that would be, the parcels being removed from Tungsten, that would the projected revenue would be decreased by $1,218. And like I stated before, the removal doesn't require a vote of the residents, and it would take effect if the election for Vienna Woods passes. So for Vienna Woods, when they're coming in, if those parcels come into that service area, it would be a projected revenue increase of $316. And you might ask yourself, well, it's being reduced by $1,500 in one service area. Why is it only $300 being added to the other service area? And that's based on every service area's individual mill rate. So Tungsten service area has a higher mill rate than Vienna Woods. So that's why there's a revenue difference there. And I had to do a revision to the staff report. I found it out today that we accidentally put in the addition of the roads to that subdivision on the original staff report. There was, I think, 0.11 miles that was initially added to that staff report, which was incorrect. We aren't bringing in any roads to the service area, and this is because that, like I stated before, there's a piece here that when it was subdivided that its only legal access is through a non-public easement, so we can't maintain that with public funds. So we're bringing in the parcels, but we're not bringing in the road, and we're not bringing in the responsibility of maintaining that portion of road. Since these 5 parcels only access is Vienna Woods service area, so through Tyrol Street onto Trianon Drive out to Steel Creek, it would be a one-part election, and the Vienna Woods service area residents would be voting on whether they want to bring that in or not. But its only legal access is through that service area. That concludes my staff report.
All right, questions? Ms. Dodge?
I'm completely confused. Why one subpart A, who approved this plat or this subdivision with no road access? Or was it not, did it not need to be approved because it's 5 or less?
Yeah, your code allows for that.
Okay. Slap me. Then number 2. My question number 2. I'm speechless. So there's no road to this subdivision that we want to bring in.
That's not true.
There's a private road.
Yeah.
And so what benefit does the subdivision that's being brought in derive from this? Other than the honor
They
of
get to
being
have maintained roads all the way up to the middle of Tyrol Street. So all the way up. So they get to drive on service area maintained roads all the way up to here.
right.
So that's their benefit.
So they're contributing to the maintenance of the roads that they use to get to the private road.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Roberts?
So I'm curious about the parcel. I thought when I was at RSEC and you were showing this that there are roads within that parcel. It was just the part in between that couldn't be maintained. Are there no public easemented roads within that parcel? Are all the roads in the parcel private easements?
The roads within the subdivision is public, and it was granted public. It's this piece right here, which is private.
Okay, but that means in the blue, those are public roads?
This short portion is public.
So that can be maintained by the service area?
It can't because it's disconnected. So we can't ask the contractor to pick up its blade and travel over a private
Wait a
road
second.
that's not maintained to try and maintain a short portion.
But we have different service areas already in effect where we have disconnected areas where they have to lift their blade, and we've got some that we're going to see tonight that are disconnected, if I remember correctly. So why can't they lift their blade just because the road is private or public? They're not doing work on that road. I don't understand that, and maybe the attorney can tell us why that is.
I can tell you the difference between the other ones that we have and this one is that between the two is private. Everything else that we deal with, we have some service areas that are not continuous, but they go on to state roads that are maintained. So we're not asking the contractor to drive on any unmaintained private roads in any of the other service areas. That's why this one is unique.
So I guess I would like the attorney to tell us what in our code disallows this.
Well, it does say in code that in order to be a maintained road, it has to have either Title 17 access or be used for year-round access, but it has to be a public road. So at least has to be a public easement. So if it's a private easement,
I understand the part where we're not doing maintenance on private, even if I don't agree with that. I
how are you
understand
going to
that's-
get to the public road is the problem, I think. So they dedicated within the subdivision, but they don't have dedicated right away
Right,
to
but
the
these-
subdivision.
Why would driving over that road matter? These taxpayers who are now going to have to pay taxes have to drive over that road.
Well, they must have a private easement to be able to access it, but that doesn't mean our contractor can.
Oh, you're saying that we know for sure that that private easement is only for those private individuals. It's not just privately owned, but it only those private individuals. Well, but
I haven't looked at the easement, so I
Okay.
guess let me just be clear on that. This is news to me. So.
Well, you can get to us
Yeah, I
this
can
week.
look at the terms of the easement.
But I just want to bring up the point that certainly anyone who lives there would have invited guests able to go there, and I would think that their maintenance contractor would be an invited guest to come do maintenance on their roads, like any of their friends that want to come visit that don't live there, if the easement is even that tight.
I wouldn't assume that. I would think that the terms of the easement would likely dictate that, so I can't give you an answer on that tonight. I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, if you could send us
Yeah.
something on it, that would be great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Mayor, do you have something in response to that particular question?
No, I have another question.
Okay. Ms. Major?
So I think my questions were mostly answered, but I just want to make sure that I understand. So essentially, the $300 that would be brought into the Vienna Woods service area from these properties would just be paying for the maintenance as those property owners and associated traffic go through the part of the road that's already maintained. So we're not adding any new feet of road, whatever, I forget the measurement that they use. We're not adding any more to this road service area. We're essentially just providing, this would essentially just provide the funds for additional road maintenance on the parts of the roads that are already being maintained.
Yeah, the parcels would pay the standard service area mill rate for that service area, but no new mileage would be brought in.
So what would happen if that private easement were to change at some point? Then the entire piece could be maintained at some point in time in the future?
If sometime in the future that turned into a public right-of-way easement, or was dedicated as public right-of-way, then that road all the way up to the end of the subdivision would be brought in if this piece during the subdivision was constructed to subdivision title.
If I one last, so I guess maybe comment / question. I guess my biggest concern would be, if we're, kind of down the road sometime in the future, adding a liability to the road service area that they might not have proper compensation for, and that would be my only concern. And I guess there's no way to really plan for that or mitigate that at this point.
Okay, I'm going to go to the mayor and just get you to clarify something you just said, that if that private road, you say is brought to title or something, I mean, if it got up to Title 17 standards and became a public road, or what do you mean brought to title? Did I misunderstand you?
No, I couldn't have. I probably didn't say it very clearly. So the first caveat to being able to spend public funds on roads is that it's public access. Right. So that's caveat number one. Number two is, was the road built to our subdivision road standards, Title 17? And if it wasn't, then the service area is not required to maintain something like that. They're not required to take on that liability of a substandard road.
Got it. Mayor?
I'll pass for now, thanks.
All right. Ms. Dodge?
Ms. Dolan has her hand up.
So I just want to clarify something that Mr. Bradley said. So it was actually put in Title 12 that it's either roads meet the applicable Title 17 standard or are constructed and used for year-round automotive access. So while they do have to be public, they don't necessarily have to meet the Title 17 standard to be maintained, but they do have to be able to be used for year-round access.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. So if it was built to Title 17, it's automatically in. If it's not built to Title 17, but it's still within a public right-of-way access corridor, the commission has the ability to vote to take on that liability to start maintaining it under Title 12. But it's not an automatic.
That's true. Yeah, they have to agree to maintain it. That's true.
All righty. Ms. Dodge?
Thank you. So we've received a couple of emails about the quality of the roads in this area to be annexed. And they're submitting pictures and statements that they're not very good quality. So it would seem that you're saying right now, oh, well, we're annexing and we won't be maintaining them because they're on the other side of the private road. But if that private road becomes public in some way, or Mr. Roberts prevails and we just lift the blade and go over, then can you talk about what the quality of the roads are in there and the impact to the commission? or to the other road service area members?
You know, I didn't look at the quality of the construction, and I don't know. So this subdivision is maybe a couple of years old. We try to capture these every year. So I don't know what type of improvements they made or had to make on that section. That's a non-public easement. So I couldn't say, but there's no, currently the way it's at, there's no obligation for the service area or even ability to maintain that substandard road.
And how did it end up being a part of the other subdivision? Is it Tungsten that's the other one?
Right. It used to be in Tungsten.
How did it get adopted into Tungsten if it had no access and it had, did somebody yeah,
So back when it was Tungsten, it was one large parcel.
oh, okay.
And so it did
So it
have
was
access through
pre-subdivision.
Tungsten through a section line easement,
Oh, okay.
which is right here. So that's that same parcel. And so it was just one parcel. And then once it was subdivided, then the
Okay.
subdivider got a private easement through this parcel.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to 3B, ordinance number 2018-32, an ordinance altering the boundaries of the garden service area to include lots 1 through 29, HD Schuylkill Division B, tax lot 1916, section 19, township 1 south, range 2 east, Fairbanks Meridian, and providing for 2 elections. The sponsor is Mayor Castle, and, you know, and we have a report. Mr. Bradley, take it away.
Thank you. So these next ones should be easier. So I promise. I'm getting into my timeline here. Garden service area. This one is a change by petition. It's located off, garden itself is located off of Bradway Road in the North Pole area. The proposed annexation contains 30 parcels, and let me get to it here. Contains 30 parcels. 2 roads would be brought in with a total of 0.52 miles. The roads were constructed to Title 17 standards at the time of the subdivision. They are gravel roads. A couple of them are in fair condition, and the north end of Becky, which is this little piece right here, that's in poor condition. The projected revenue would be increased to $2,724. This is a 2-part election, so the receiving service area votes as well as the area wanting to be brought in. This concludes my staff report.
All right, questions? Ms. Major?
So who's responsible for maintaining the roads in the proposed annexation area now?
The residents.
The residents. So, and who petitioned? Was it the residents that petitioned to be a part of garden service area?
Yeah, there was, I think, one resident within this area.
How much do you think it would cost annually to maintain that? What is it? You said 0.52 miles of road.
Yes.
How much annually would it cost to maintain that to a proper standard? Number one, I think estimated cost to bring it up to the proper standard, and then 2, to keep it at that standard.
That's a tough answer to give. And the reason I say it's tough is because every commission's different and their level of maintenance is different. When I talked to Rob about what it meant that portion of the road condition was poor, he stated that, you know, it's pretty rough, it's pretty up and down. Sounds like they let the brush grow in a little bit over the years. And my guess is for that poor section, I think the material's probably there. My guess is about 3 hours of a grader rebalancing the road would probably put it back into shape comparable to the other roads in the area.
Is there any thought that the revenue that would be brought in would be substantial enough or supportive enough to not cause a burden on the rest of the on the remainder of the garden service area?
Well, we try to let the residents and kind of compare apples and apples. So one of the numbers we look at is how many dollars per mile are they bringing in compared to the service area of how many dollars per mile of revenue are they bringing in. So in this particular case, the projected dollars per mile for the annexation area is $5,238 per mile. The existing service area brings in about $8,630 per mile. So it is less revenue per mile, but I don't know if it would be a devastating number.
Right. Any other questions, Ms. Major? Okay. And in this written staff report, your department or your division does not attempt to estimate the cost per mile for maintenance.
No.
All right. Any other questions? All right, Ms. Dodge.
I apologize, I was forwarding those other emails so you'd have information, and I missed a little bit of your briefing. But it doesn't appear that the proposed annexation has a shared boundary, is that correct?
That's
It
correct.
just shares Bradway Road, or it shares what is it sharing?
Bradway.
But is Bradway public,
Close
or is it?
distance to the other service area.
So really, we want to be in a service area, and this is the most proximate?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, other questions? All right. I realize that we're interested in the merits of this to some extent, but remember, it's the residents who are going to make the call on this, and we're just deciding whether to let them vote or not. Okay. No other questions? We'll move on to ordinance number 2018-33, an ordinance altering the boundaries of the McGrath Estates service area to include lots 1 through 7, Block A, lots 1 through 8, Block B, lots 1 through 5, Block C, Big Q subdivision, eastern portion of Parcel F, Section 12, Township 1 North, Range 1 West, Fairbanks Meridian, lots 1 through 10, Block 1, lots 1 through 3, Block 2, Sky Ridge Drive subdivision, and providing for 2 elections. Mr. Bradley, what do you got?
Thank you. So McGrath Estates service area, this annexation was done by petition. McGrath Estates service area is located off of McGrath Road and extends on to Sky Ridge Drive. So, and I hit the right button. So this is all of McGrath Estates service area. So McGrath kind of runs down here, and then this is Skyline up through here, and then this is Sky Ridge down to the old Stees. And so this is the parcel or the neighborhood that wants to be brought into a service area, and this is the existing service area. The proposed annexation contains 34 parcels. 4 roads would be brought in with a total of 0.79 miles. The roads were constructed to Title 17 standards. They are gravel roads that are in fair condition, but one road is in poor condition. It's called Kirk Circle. It's kind of tough to see, but it's this little guy right here.
Figured.
The projected revenue would increase by $3,949. This is a 2-part election. The receiving service area votes as well as the area wanting to be brought in. This concludes my staff report.
All right, questions? Ms. Dodge?
This is on all of them. We had talked last time about a way for you to include information about the value of the properties being brought in, so that when people were making elections, they could see the financial impact of that. Have you found a way to do that with this election? I think it was like the value per mile, or we were wanting them to know that there was impacts.
In our staff report we do. I don't know about the actual
We
ballot.
talked about it on the ballot, or on the.
We all, I'm trying. I recall the issue, and I know we ultimately concluded that we couldn't make it work on the ballot, but I don't remember why. I'd have to refresh my memory on that.
Cover letter, or
Mr. Roberts? No. Oh, all right, well, on that line, if residents in the receiving the existing service area or the proposed annexed area called your office, would they get that information?
Yes.
Okay, so that's available. Could we, I mean, that's adding some work, but couldn't the notice of this election at least say that?
So that's my recollection, is that the notice of the election, we actually do send out the information. I'm sorry, my memory, I just don't remember.
I don't know, I just remember that we wanted to educate people because
And
they
we
didn't
had,
understand.
I remember having a whole
Right.
discussion with Adina in April about what's actually sent and how they're notified. And we ultimately concluded there wasn't a clean way to put it on the ballot. And so
Right,
we
yeah.
had decided we educated people enough, I think, through the other process.
Yeah, I mean, we have the information available at our open house, and obviously people want to call, and we have it here in our staff report, and it's published. I mean, we do have our projected dollars per mile, which I would say would be the apples and apples you'd want to compare. Yeah.
Mr. Cooper?
I just wanted to be clear on this one that the dollars per mile from the annexed area would be 3,120, and the existing per mile is 16,349.
That is correct.
The subdivision, the lots in between the existing and the proposed annexation area, I take it that is not a road service in a road service area, and these property owners aren't interested, or at least they didn't petition.
It's not in a road service area, and nobody from the neighborhood ever petitioned. Now, when we do get petitions, we do try to come up with some type of system to where we're not piecemealing as far as a road system. So in this particular case, these guys are kind of on their own. This group, they have their own roads, and they don't kind of spill into anywhere else. So we didn't want to ask the petitioner to go above and beyond with their neighborhood.
All right, further questions on this ordinance? All right, moving right along to ordinance number 2018-34, an ordinance altering the boundaries of Chena Point Road Service Area to remove a portion of Lot 1B, Chena Point Lake Subdivision, First Edition. Mr. Bradley.
So Chena Point service area, that's located off of Chena Pump Road. This is a borough-sponsored annex or removal. This is through a plat. It's a portion of a parcel, so we're removing this portion of this whole parcel that prior to the plat, this was the shape. So the shape of the service area boundary followed the parcel boundary, but with the change of the parcel, it now split the parcel, and we don't like that. So that portion of parcel doesn't have any direct access to service area roads. The projected revenue would be decreased by $1,008, and this removal does not require a vote and would take place after the adoption of the ordinance. That concludes my staff report.
All right, Ms. Dodge.
So we can't see under the proposed removal on our little sheet, but I'm assuming that if we were able to see the other half of this lot, we would find that it has access to a road down that's,
It has access to Chena Pump.
thank you.
Other questions? We just note that this road service area has, relatively a high mill rate. They spend a lot of money on their roads. As a good friend of mine has pointed out. All right. Any other questions? All right, we're going to move on. An ordinance number 2018-35, an ordinance altering the boundaries of the Gordon service area to remove Lot 1A, Block A, Peter Hawk subdivision, Vintage Estates, First Edition. Mr. Bradley.
Thank you. So Gordon service area is located off of Nelson Road in the North Pole area. Now this is a removal, and is borough sponsored, but it was brought to us by the homeowner or the property owner for these parcels. So the parcel in red is right here. The property owner actually came to us and wanted both of these parcels removed. So we looked at the plat, and we did notice that the plat states that this parcel's only access is onto a service area road, but this parcel's access is only onto Nelson Road by plat. And also there is no physical access for that parcel onto the service area road, so we believe it's appropriate to remove it from the service area.
All right, questions? So this is a removal, so there's no election here. This is up to the assembly to remove or not remove next week.
That's correct.
All right, any questions? Moving right along, ordinance number 2018-36, an ordinance altering the boundaries of the Birch Hill service area to include lots 1 through 5, Block B, lots 1 through 4, Block C, Murray Highlands, lots 1 through 12, Murray Highlands Extension, and providing for 2 elections. Mr. Bradley, take it away.
So Birch Hill service area is located off of Chena Hot Springs Road and the Steese Expressway. You kind of have a north portion and a south portion. So in the north portion, here's the expressway, here's Steel Creek, and on this side you have the Steese Expressway. You have Birch Hill Road that comes up and then takes a turn and then goes up to the resort or the park there. And this is the area that is asked to be brought in. This was done by petition. This does actually make some improvements to the neighborhood because it provides a continuous maintenance to one of the roads, and it connects it all the way out to a state road. So the proposed annexation contains 21 parcels. 2 roads would be brought in with a total of 0.67 miles. The roads were constructed to Title 17 standards. They are in fair condition. The projected revenue would increase by $9,908. So the portion asking to be brought in would bring in a projected dollars per mile of $14,788. The existing service area Birch Hill brings in their FY19 budget is $11,319. So this is a little revenue heavy for the annexation portion, and it's kind of hard to see here, but most of these people who live within the service area actually drive through this non-service area to get to Birch Hill Road to drive out. So this would be, I think, good for the residents to bring it in, but that concludes my staff report.
All right, questions? All right, so given the revenue per mile, this is a good deal for the existing road service area.
Yes.
And given that the roads in the next area are in decent shape.
Yes.
All right, any questions? All right, moving right along. Ordinance number 2018-37, an ordinance, wait, let me make sure I got this right. An ordinance altering the boundaries of the Moose Meadows service area to include lots 1 through 30, Block 1, lots 1 through 24, Block 2, Lakewood subdivision, lots 1 and 4, Lakewood subdivision, first edition, and providing for 2 elections. Take it away, Mr. Bradley.
Thank you. Moose Meadows service area is located in the North Pole area. It's one of our larger service areas. A majority of it's located off of Plaque Road. We received the petition from an area who wants to be brought in. The proposed annexation contains 56 parcels. 5 roads would be brought in with a total of 1.28 miles. The roads were constructed to Title 17 standards. They're gravel roads in fair condition. The projected annual revenue would increase by $7,727. The projected dollars per mile that that area would bring in is $14,256 per mile. The existing service area brings in I'm reading the wrong staff report. I am so sorry. I'm reading the next one. I kind of ruined the surprise for you guys. The area being brought in would be $6,037. The existing service area is $4,163. Those numbers make more sense. That concludes my staff report.
All right, questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to ordinance number 2018-38, an ordinance altering the boundaries of the Newbie Park service area to include lots 1A through 11A, Enterprise Park, and providing for 2 elections. Mr. Bradley.
Newbie Park, this boundary change is by petition. The service area is located off of Dawson Road. The proposed annexation contains 22 parcels. 3 roads would be brought in and a total of 0.32 miles. The roads were constructed to Title 17 standards. They're gravel roads in fair condition. The projected revenue would increase by $4,562, which translates to $14,256 a mile, versus the existing service area's dollars per mile is $5,261. So we'd be dealing with an area that has high tax revenue. That concludes my staff report.
All right, questions? All right. Ordinance number 2018-39, an ordinance altering the boundaries of the Fairfields service area to include lots 7 through 17, Moosewood subdivision, and providing for 2 elections. Mr. Bradley.
Thank you. So this was a petition. Fairfields is located off of Brock Road in the North Pole area. This proposed annexation contains 11 parcels, 2 roads at 0.13 miles. The roads were constructed to Title 17 standards and are in fair condition. The projected revenue would increase by $643. The dollars per mile the area would bring in would be $4,946. The existing service area brings in $6,075 per mile. That concludes my staff report.
All right, questions? So this is not such a good deal for the existing service area. Do you know what do you know the condition of the proposed roads in the proposed annexed area?
Yeah, I think they're in good condition. They're in good condition,
yes.
They're in good condition.
All righty. Any questions? Okay, I'm guessing not. Okay, well, we got through nine ordinances. I wish we could get through 9 ordinances that fast with finance. Never mind.
It wasn't the ordinances, Mr. Lawrence. It was the lists.
That's true. That's true. It's the blame it on the Capital Projects Committee. That's a good point. All right. Briefings from the Borough Mayor.
Thank you. Our Sustainability Commission has been working on a draft sustainability plan. Sustainability, I think, is a good thing. We want to see if we can stay here in perpetuity without destroying the place. Excuse me. And so we have a draft plan for doing that, addressing such things as farm and food security and energy efficiency, renewable energy, and lots more. So there is a sustainability summit, one evening work session, open to the public next Wednesday, October 10th. Wednesday the 10th at 5:30 at Nolene Library. And you have a handout at your table regarding this that you can look at to remind you. So over at Nolene Library next Wednesday, 5:30. Come on down and take a look at the draft sustainability plan, make some comments on it. They've been working hard, the commission's been working hard on this for a while now, and we're rolling it out for public comment. So you can show up and comment, or folks from the public, we'd like as many folks to be engaged as possible. That's all I have, other than answering any questions you might have.
All right, any questions for the mayor? All right, then let's move on to assembly business. Assembly business and/or comments. We'll start on my right. Mr. Lejeski.
No comment.
Mr. Gray.
No, other than we already talked about, we have another meeting of the Legislative Priorities Committee next Thursday.
Yep, I'll be bringing that up myself. All right, Ms. Major.
Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Roberts.
So I wrote a letter to the editor today. I don't know when it'll show up, and I'll try to send you guys a copy. Talking about Prop 4 and why I think it passed and what the path is going forward. And one of the items, of course, which was I didn't talk about much in the LTE, was just the fact that people had thought that there was kind of a manifest unfairness about some of the regulations. Well, today I went into a business. This is a business that has a large engineered coal heating system. They paid over $70,000 for it to put in to get it engineered to be very efficient. And last year I'd had a conversation with Glenn about this, and he said, those guys don't have any problem because nobody complains about them. You can't see their smoke. They're just, it's just a nice operation. Well, today this guy there shows me a letter that he got from the borough back in February saying that they're in violation and they needed to fill out this no ash. And I was blown away because of that prior conversation, but these guys have such a clean system, and I'm just wondering if it's being complaint driven, how did that happen? I mean, they couldn't switch over because the old oil system hadn't been used and wouldn't work anyway. And so they filled out the no ash, but never had got it in. It was at the end of the season last year. But that's the kind of thing that just makes people shake their head about government. The common sense aspect of somebody's not causing any problems and there's nothing going on there. I mean, they didn't even get talked to. Somebody didn't go in and talk to them and address that they were burning. They just got a letter in the mail, and how does that person know that it was that device and it wasn't an oil device unless they just knew about that operation because it's been public before. So I just wanted to bring that up, that's just one more factor out there is that we just have this problem of, and this is just a problem that covers all of government, I'm sure you'll all agree, of sometimes not having common sense and flexibility that's really needed. And I think that was a major part of the issue of why things didn't pass and what we should always be trying to address. I mean, I've tried to do many ordinances over time to try and legislate some of that in, but it's really hard to do that. It doesn't really work very good. But I just wanted to tell you guys that story because I was just really blown away by that whole encounter. Thanks.
Mr. Quist.
Thank you. I have to reply a bit to what Mr. Roberts just said. Unfortunately, with the adoption of Prop 4, that kind of common sense flexibility like the no ash is something that's no longer available to this community. But I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunity for this discussion later, too. I'd just like to thank everybody who chose to vote in this week's municipal election. Clearly, everybody here thinks elections are very important. And I'd also like to thank the clerk's office for holding another successful election for our community. Thank you.
Mr. Cooper.
No comments.
Ms. Dodge.
Let's see. I just wanted to echo Mr. Quist's comments about everybody that turned out to vote and the clerks running a great election and all those volunteers at the precincts that were there for a very long day. Appreciate that. And congratulations to the new mayor, to the assembly members, to IGU commissioners, city council members, school board members. Thank you for, and thank you for everybody that ran. It's, we need everybody. Thanks.
All right, well, I echo what both Mr. Quist and Ms. Dodge said. I thank the people who had the wherewithal to run for office, and I certainly congratulate those who were able to get elected and wish them all luck. All right, next week, Thursday, October 11th, the Capital Projects and Legislative Priorities Committee will meet at 12 noon in the Chismar Conference Room. Next Thursday, October 11th, we will have a regular assembly meeting at 6 p.m. here. There's some rumor out there that we may have a special assembly meeting as well. Okay. So, anything else, Mayor?
I really need to comment about Mr. Roberts' comment. We do our darndest to apply common sense and flexibility, and we have quite a bit of that. We are a little short on staff, so we don't always get a hold of everyone personally. We don't have the resources to knock on every door. We also have legal responsibilities to provide official notice on different things, and so we send letters so that we can cross those T's and dot those I's. I think we've gone far out of our way to try to personalize all the air quality stuff as much as we can, including phone calls from me for folks before we take action. And if I'm not available, somebody from the mayor's office. That's unheard of in any other community across the United States. And while the folks from EPA were here in DEC, I asked them if they'd be making phone calls, and they laughed, because they certainly aren't going to have the flexibility or the interest in making phone calls and trying to be as personable with regulation as what we have been. And that's gone away, and I feel bad for that, because now we're going to have big government instead of at least common sense and flexibility to the best of our ability with the resources we have available, which is what we've been doing. Thank you.
All right. On that note, we are adjourned.